Hello, everyone. We are live here with Topher Town Music, guys. Welcome to the Thursday edition here of Trending Politics Live. We have got a lot to get into. You guys all know Topher Town Music. What's up, man? How you doing today?
What's going on, Clayton? Everybody at Trending Politics, man. I'm always glad to come on here to see y'all smiling faces and your willing ears to hear the truth
Yes.
and the facts. And that's what we're here to do, get to the facts, y'all.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, I'm glad to have you on because, man, I got to be honest, like, just watching your videos on everything going on, like, you've got the most, like, one of the most wide scope of knowledge of everything that goes on. There's a lot of unrest going on right now in Kentucky and Louisville. Let's get into this. There's a lot of lies that we need to debunk, a lot of things that we need to get into here. So we're just going to dive right into it. We got a lot more people joining on here. Thank you, everybody, for joining in here. So first off, I want to get to the fact, as many of you guys know, a little bit of an update on the situation that happened last night. As many of you guys know, the grand jury ruling came down yesterday in the Breonna Taylor case, and let's just say it is not what the left wanted. So Topher, can you tell me real quick while I bring up the updates about the police officers who were shot? What was the left hoping for in the ruling, and then what did they get, and then what was your reaction to the ruling itself?
So I believe the left wanted all three officers to be charged with murder. This is based
Okay.
on the slogans that we're putting out. Arrest the killers of Breonna Taylor, arrest the murderers of Breonna Taylor. So they felt that she was murdered, and we all know that murder requires premeditation, and we
Yes.
know that the officers did not premeditate to go murder Breonna Taylor. They had
Yes.
every right legally to be there, right, and they had
Yep.
every right legally to defend themselves. So, unfortunately, this is what we say: facts over feelings. Is like, I understand how you felt, and I always tell people this: if you felt like that was an unjust situation as well, then unfortunately, for that moment, they're going by the law. Now, if you have an issue with the law, then you can go change the law, which I feel like they've been trying to do for a while. But until then, those are going to be justified things. But so go back to the ruling. They came out and said that only one officer out of the three officers, that's Brett Hankinson, will be charged with 3 counts of first-degree wanton endangerment.
Okay.
This is mainly because of the bullets and stray fire that went to the neighboring apartment.
Yes.
So none of the officers were charged with the murder or death of Breonna Taylor, and that's the
Yes.
issue. And a lot of
Yes.
people are saying now that because of that ruling, a wall carries more of a consequence than Breonna Taylor. I was like,
Yep.
no, if you want to take it out of context, and absolutely. But the
Yep.
truth is, Breonna Taylor was just in the midst of crossfire, and for all we
Yeah.
know, her boyfriend Kenneth Walker could have used her as a shield during
Yep.
that time, because it's still a mystery as to how she took all the bullets, but he the one who fired the gun, and he took nothing. He left unscathed, right?
Yep.
So, but as far as the full fallout, of course, it's been protests and everything that's going on. 3 officers have been confirmed shot in Louisville last night. In the midst of all the devastation that's taking place, and this is my thing. What does justice mean, right? The legal definition is usually someone that's, you're justified when you are in line with the law, not justified morally, not doing anything else. So what are we talking about when people are asking for justice? Because to me, they received justice because it was put against the law. Also, they even had a black attorney general, but of course, a Republican, Daniel Cameron,
Yep.
isn't good enough because he's considered an Uncle Tom, a sellout, because he didn't bring forth the evidence they thought he should have, or the indictment.
Yep.
But unlike most Democrats on the left, he's looking at this logically, and he's looking at this how you're supposed to. You're supposed to interpret the law professionally, regardless of skin color, regardless of the hype and build around the case. You know what I'm saying? So he
Yep.
did his job. I'm pretty sure, trust me, given everything that's going on, he made sure he combed through everything, but he
Yes.
could not find anything that would stick. And I'm telling people right now, if you're tuning in, the reason why he did these charges, because these are more likely going to stick compared to if he would have done a murder one. Because remember what happened with Freddie Gray, right? Because the attorney general came out, it was her first time, and she was like, I'm gonna get them all these, I forgot what it was, negligent homicide, everything they brought it down to, but none of the charges stuck, because once you get in front of a jury and you got to present all evidence, which we still don't know all the evidence, guys. You got to remember that.
Yep.
We
Yes.
still don't know everything. All that won't be revealed until the trial. All we know is what the Attorney General has indicted them on. So yeah, so that's just a little spiel, quick
Yeah.
spiel before we get into everything.
No, absolutely. No, it's very important to point that all out, man, because like you said, they wanted murder charges, but in order, so, and this, everybody, this has major consequences for the country, but this also has consequences for the police officers who are doing their jobs on a daily basis out there, because when this anti-cop rhetoric keeps getting spewed and you have LeBron James of all people saying make America arrest the murderers of Breonna Taylor, you're painting them as murderers. That is a very different thing than what happened, and that's the whole point of what we are talking about today. Now, on your point with Daniel Cameron and why, they're not talking about him, even though he's a black attorney general, again, as you and I have talked about in the past, I've talked about with a lot of people, is if you are black, but you are not of the same political persuasion, suddenly the left isn't going to claim you anymore. In fact, a super MSNBC went full racist on this guy. I'm going to play a short clip for you here. I want you to react to it.
Cheryl, one of the comments that stuck out to me from the Attorney General, he said, sometimes the criminal law is not adequate to respond to a tragedy. That is quite a remarkable statement, a striking statement.
Well, listen, not only is he being intellectually dishonest about that, I find all of his remarks with regards to this whole entire press conference offensive. And let me just speak to this whole celebrity influencer thing. While they can't speak for Kentuckians, let me say this as a black woman. He does not speak for black folks. He's skin folk, but he is not kinfolk. And so just like he thinks they can't speak for Kentucky because he's up there with a black face, he does not speak for all of us. This was not a tragedy. This was a murder. He should be ashamed of himself.
Kimberly, let me get your final thoughts.
Wow. I got to be honest. I've never really heard that term. Not skinfolk, kinfolk. Is that some sort of like racial slur? Can you tell, like, what is she talking about here? And just react to that, please. That was ridiculous.
So she was saying, all skinfolk and kinfolk is a term that we say about black people having the same skin color, but we don't have the same ideas. And usually it ties back to the acting white or the Uncle Tom and sellout, right? So what she's saying is because he didn't bring what they thought he should have brought, even though they don't have all the evidence, even though they're not there on the courtroom, even though they have not interviewed all the witnesses that was there, they think that he should have brought something different. And they think because he's a black Republican or he's a sellout, this is the only reason why he brought something other than what they expected. Now, this is just disheartening that people can go on live national TV and be this racist and be this discriminatory, and no one says anything.
And no one says, yep.
It's fine. I always tell people all the time, like, black people don't get hit with hate crimes when we kill somebody and yell out the N-word. Like, if I kill another black person and yell the N-word, it's not a hate crime. If a white person kill a black person and yell the N-word, it's a hate crime. How? It's the same word. And this is why I would tell people earlier last night, it's like the Constitution and laws are colorblind. Yeah. So there's no color. It doesn't say, oh, if you're a black person in the Constitution, then you can't be racist if this happened, or you can't have this applied to you. There's no color. Same thing when they try to make this whole release the body cam footage before the investigation is over with. This tampers with the witnesses. This is why a lot of times they don't release, and this is why the Constitution doesn't force them to release information related to the investigation before it's over with. But because of the mob and how everybody's going these days and burning stuff down, they're releasing information early and body cam footage early, and it's still not quelling what's going on. So it's like, stop doing this so you can stop messing up the witnesses and stop warping everybody's opinion. And just trust the process. Now, if you don't trust the process, then it's your job, upcoming election, to vote for people that you feel like you can trust. But just because someone doesn't deliver what you think is justice does not mean they are not working in your best interest.
Yes. Yeah. And so, I mean, and like you said, it's just crazy. Everything that they can get away with and everything you just said, it's just, they don't have to talk about facts. And, she is not the only person that has been this hysterical. So we have, I'm going to just go through a couple of these comments here. Let's one Twitter here. Verified Twitter accounts. Again, these tweets can go up and they can stay up. This guy says, he's a verified Twitter account, keep in mind, burn it all down after the ruling. That's what he said. Then we have Sarah Silverman here, a comedian, but because she's a celebrity, everyone's going to take what she says. She, again, now we can start to get into the lies of all this, and we just, a lot of reaction, guys. There's a lot to get into here. Sarah Silverman pushes a blatant lie. I would like to know how this judge and jury would feel if their daughter was shot and killed in her home while she slept. Would this look like justice to them? So let's get into that, because there is still this lie going around that Breonna Taylor. So let's dive into a couple of the biggest lies, but I know that you've done a whole series on them. But first of all, the lie that she was just asleep in her bed, that did not happen. And then the other lie that, she had nothing to do with this investigation. I think those are two of the big ones. And then let's go through the actual night that happened, the process. So actually, you know what? We'll be able to debunk lies by starting from the beginning of what actually happened that night. So can you take us through the series of events? And again, everybody, if you've heard this all before, it's very important to reiterate it, you guys, because as we've seen, just because we think we have the facts doesn't mean the general population has all of these facts. They are still being lied to, and they are still believing these lies on a daily basis. So let's quickly recap what happened that night. And then, I know that both sides could have done things a little bit different. Okay, we're not saying that, but let's get into that, and then let's debunk things along the way.
Okay, so based on what's been released and everything, I encourage you guys, if you have not read the 40-page report that's been released by Tatum, Officer Tatum, go to tatumreport.com. Really great place to get the source from. Also, Courier Journal also released the same information, and they're left-leaning, just in case you be like, well, there's right-leaning bias. Don't worry, guys. This is across the board. Now, what happened was they pull up. They pull up to this. First of all, Sergeant Manley then was sitting outside of Breonna Taylor's apartment. Right. They saw the car was there and everything else, and they also saw a car that typically wasn't there. Right. So they saw everybody was there, and then the other squad was at the house on LA Avenue, the trap house or whatever. But they pretty much executed warrants according to official documents at the same time. So what they did was Madeline and the team went in. What they did first was, because even in the briefer room, you can go back and look at the photos that was released. They had on her, everybody else was no knock, but on her, even though they had a no knock for her apartment, with her name on it, with her car on it, with all the other evidence that's required, Social Security, birth date. So they knew she was part of the suspects. Okay.
Yes.
And a lot of people was like, well, if you got the main suspect, then you should never went to her. It's like, well, first of all, it was a search warrant. So regardless, it wasn't an arrest warrant. Now, if it was an arrest warrant for Jamarcus Glover, then I can understand not executing that warrant if you had found him at the other house. But if it was a search warrant,
yes,
for her,
key distinction,
for her complicity in the drug trafficking scene, right? So, so they still executed the warrant. They went up to the door, and Sergeant Manley says when they was knocking on the door, one guy came as they were knocking and announcing. A independent witness, which they have confirmed because they came out and said yesterday, came and said that told them to leave that girl alone. So there's a witness saying they knocked and announced. So unfortunately, Kenneth Walker said that him and Breonna Taylor did not hear them say anything, but he heard them knocking. Right. But let's the key thing here. While they was knocking, even though they was laying in the bed, they were not asleep. They was about to go to sleep. Let's put that out there. They was about to go to sleep. They heard the knocking, and then they started to put clothes on, and then they went to the front door, or almost got to the front door, but they got in the hallway before the door came flying open, right? Okay. So that tells me that they had plenty enough time. Also, according to Sergeant Manley's story, that they was knocking and doing that for about a minute and a half, right? So that's a lot of time. It's not like a rush thing.
So they're knocking for a minute and a half then.
Yeah. So they're knocking about a minute and a half, announcing themselves, like I said. And
by the way, I mean, let's like take this into context too. I mean, if someone is banging on your door for a minute and a half, if you think that that's a criminal, criminals are not going to bang on your door for a minute and a half before they come in. So a lot of these people who are saying, hey, you conservatives are all about home defense, and we are. A lot of times when someone's breaking into the house, they're going to do it in the most sly way as they possibly can. They're not trying to make an announcement to anyone. Like there's been an incident, around my neighborhood where the cops, they had to come and knock on the door. And so in this instance, like if someone is knocking at your door, it's pretty safe to say this is not going to be just a random intruder that's looking to shoot you guys up. And then, so I want to make that clarification, and then let's continue down what you were saying.
Yeah, so that's a good piece right there because some people forget. Like, yeah, I'm tell everybody, it's like if I'm knocking on your door, I'm not knocking on your door if I'm a criminal. I'm just gonna break
Yeah.
open the door.
Right, right.
First of all, I'm not giving you a chance to even defend yourself. I'm trying to get in, catch you off guard, and everything else.
Yes.
But the reason
Yeah.
why they was knocking him was because they thought she was there alone, and they didn't want to bust in on a female because this is where they messed up. Trying to be courteous is what caused her to die. If they would have just did a no knock straight up, then they would have still been lying in the bed, about to go to sleep. He probably wouldn't have time to go get the weapon and
Yeah.
then return fire. So I just want to put that out there. And it's
Yes.
crazy they banned no knocks based on a incident that did not include a no knock.
Oh
Because
man.
when they did the no knock on Jamarcus Glover,
Yeah.
he was taken alive and all the stuff was caught contraband and everything else.
And that's a key distinction here, is that they're now blaming the no knock warrant, but they knock. So I mean, man, some of this is just, I feel like I'm going insane sometimes because some of the things that are off. But okay, so what happened next then, according to everything, after they busted in? So they're knocking for a minute and a half. That gave them the time to get up, get changed, get the weapon, and now the biggest lie. So what Sarah Silverman says, she was just sleeping in her bed and they shot her 8 times. That's the lie that's going around. But where was she exactly and what actually happened?
So yeah, so they was in the bedroom, but she was not asleep. I don't know why we keep hearing this story about her being asleep in her bed. She was not shot in her sleep. I don't know how often we can say this. I don't know how clear the autopsy of her bleeding on the floor, even from the testimony of Kenneth Walker, who said they both got up. Like, it's like, how much more are we gonna push this false narrative? It's
Yeah.
To me, it's becoming like second nature for some of these folks to just continue with a story regardless of what kind of facts come out, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so she was not asleep. That was in the hallway, and what happened was he reached for a weapon, and he shot at Sergeant Madley. So Sergeant Madley got struck, and of course, everyone's like, "Well, you shouldn't be wearing plain clothing." I want to point this out to everybody real quick. Kenneth Walker himself said it was so dark in the apartment in the hallway, they didn't know who it was when they came through the door in the first place. So it didn't matter what kind of clothes you had on because he couldn't recognize anything based on how dark it was. So this whole plain clothes thing makes no sense in the first place. And I'm gonna be real with you. They was wearing vests. So even if they was in plain clothes, if you have a vest on, more than likely you are law enforcement. And I'm pretty sure they had something on there that said police. Yeah. You can go verify this through the footage of the phone camera after the event that happened, and they had Kenneth Walker walking out that the neighbor had took. So there's footage of them showing them looking to have some type of vest on. So yeah, they may not have had the whole blue suit, black suit, whatever, but they did have some type of recognition on top of them announcing themselves that they were police. So you had both the verbal and you probably had the visible, but you just couldn't see because it was too dark recognition. Just to put that out there.
Yeah, yeah.
Makes sense. That happened, and once that happened, Sergeant, Madley, they all returned fire, so they backed up because he got hurt, right? So he had to retreat. And when they returned fire, that's when Hankinson shot a lot into the other apartment as well. One of the bullets went into the adjacent apartment. So then they backed up into the parking lot. And a lot of people got mad because they didn't render aid right away to Breonna Taylor. I said, first of all, they didn't know she got struck. They didn't know who got struck. Yep. They returned fire, retreated like you're supposed to do. And they were not about to go in and do any type of investigation or see what was going on or offer any aid until the scene was safe. Yes. So they had to go clear the scene to make sure it was safe. So they backed up, called for backup and everything. And then Kenneth Walker stayed in the house. If he would have just came on out and done what he was supposed to do, but no, he called his mama, he called her mama, he called 911, all of these things while she was bleeding to death. And she probably could have got seen faster. If not, this is the thing, though, people got to realize, too. It didn't matter what kind of aid they would have rendered within those 5 minutes. The autopsy and the coroner said she probably died within the first minute of the bullets. But, of course, they say she died. The time of death was 5 minutes later. Yeah. So it's like it was going to happen anyway. And just to be clear, she took 5 bullets instead of 8. So a lot of people keep saying she was shot 8 times. She only took 5. Even Stephen A. Smith came out and said she was shot 6 times last night. She was not shot 6 times. She was shot 5 times.
Okay. Yeah, and then it's just like, again, the way that it's being painted is that because they are black, this white cop shot her to death. like that, I think, is probably one of the most toxic lies out there, because then it pushes this narrative. And so now, in your opinion, because you did a live stream on this yesterday and you and I were talking about this a little bit more. So in your opinion, what could have been done differently on the part of the cops? Because that one cop was indicted with wanton endangerment. So what could they have done differently? And I guess, again, we got to put ourselves in their shoes. When you're in the heat of the moment and bullets are flying, who knows what that adrenaline actually feels like. But in your opinion, to avoid all those charges, like what could the cop have done a little bit differently in that situation?
So I told people this. If he didn't just shoot completely into the dark, I felt that he had to have some type of visual on Breonna Taylor, or at least where the bullets were coming from, in order to shoot accurately 5 times. At least take 5 bullets, right? So they had to at least know where the general location was. But still, it would have been better if he would have had more of a clear vision, like specifically, okay, it was this person that shot me. But once again, given the fact that it was nighttime and of course, in the apartment, it's hard to tell. And what makes more sense is this is probably why she was used as a shield, because it doesn't make sense if he would have shot and then, it's nighttime, whatever. You can see where the gun's coming from, but she ended up with all the bullets. So I don't know. We can see how that works out in court, what they decide.
Well, because one thing you were saying yesterday is like the cop is, unfortunately, they're responsible for every round that leaves that pistol. So it's like, or that gun. And so it's like, So in terms of the charges themselves, I mean, so again, they were looking for murder, and the sad thing is that the left is pushing this whole murder thing. And you sent me this. You wanted me to put this up. You have the chief social justice warrior right now, Colin Kaepernick himself, and he tweeted this out, everybody, today. Listen up to what Colin Kaepernick said. See, and this is what happens, right? We can't just say this was a tragic event. It didn't have to happen, but it happened. We can't just say that. They have to jump to these extremes, which then causes unrest in the streets. Colin Kaepernick, I believe this was this morning. Is that right, Topher? With his tweet?
No, it was last night.
The white supremacist institution of policing that stole Breonna Taylor's life from us must be abolished for the safety and well-being of our people. And then Colin Kaepernick says, hashtag Breonna Taylor, say her name, abolish the police. And so the left, they jump from this, they don't even go to, this is a tragedy, I wish it could have been avoided. It was racial, it's because they're white, and it's because they're black, and now let's abolish the police?
Yeah, so Colin Kaepernick is everybody's favorite victimhood person over here. But this is my thing. Nothing that I've seen, no evidence can prove that Breonna Taylor died solely because of her skin color.
Yes.
Nothing proves she died because she was a black woman, right? Yep. There's no evidence to even suggest that. What she died from was her boyfriend shooting randomly at police officers. That's what she died from. Although he was defending his home, I'm not taking away his right to defend his home, right? It's just that he was defending his home from police, right? And also police had the right to be there. And let's not forget her actions that led her to be even a suspect, right? It's one thing to not know someone's, trafficking drugs across the states. It's another thing to be full on helping them, with the money and giving them like exchange and with storing gifts and everything else. Like that's a whole nother thing. And then that's what came out, and that's why she was named on a warrant. Because a lot of people think that the judge that saw the warrants just did a whole approve all and didn't test anything. No, it takes a lot, not just to get a warrant. But to get a no-knock warrant, it takes a lot of evidence. Evidence that has to be there. And the officer and the detective that collected all this information proved that she was on the jailhouse recordings talking about doing things for DeMarcus Glover. That she had a video surveillance of her being at the trap house. And everyone's like, well, just because you go to the trap house, I mean, you got anything to do with drugs. I'm like, all right, man. Okay, Chris Hansen. And also, she was there. Her car, one of her vehicles that was in her rental name, was in her name, had a dead body in it. Even though it might not have been related to nothing she did, but the police had pretty much had her on the radar for a whole minute, along with the whole Jamarcus Glover thing. This whole thing's been going on for like 3 years or so. So it's just like, guys, let's talk about why she ended up in that position, and that's the conversation they don't want to have. They don't want to have.
Absolutely.
They don't want to have the conversation that says, she wasn't an angel. You know what I'm saying? Did she deserve to die? No, but she wasn't no angel.
Yes, exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
And I think that some conservatives, some conservatives do a poor job of articulating that point because they make it feel like with the whole Jacob Blake thing, so many conservatives, and I don't agree with this, they say, oh, well, he was a rapist. And it's like, well, hold on. Like, let's what happened? Like, we need to point out that situation. In this instance, was she an angel? No. Did she deserve to die? No. Was this tragic? Yes. But also, was she involved and was she in a situation like, so, I just want to be super delicate with how I talk about this, man, because it's tough. It's tough. And we don't want to, she did not deserve to die because of this situation. But again, being in the situation, and like you said, she did not die. And this is the crux of the argument here, is what the whole Black Lives Matter is pushing right now, is that she died because she was black. And again, at the end of the day, the cops were returning fire and she tragically got caught up in that crossfire. But if they would have, so I guess that's where I want to leave. I'm going to bring up another tweet here in a second, but if you have anything to add to that.
Yeah, I just want to say another reason why they say that she was murdered is because it was in connection to some real estate scheme to take and buy all the poor rental property so they can tear it down and build something new. So it's crazy. So they're saying is after Elliott Avenue and all that stuff went down, the house was put up. I think the state, or at least the city, bought the house for like, I don't know what, $30-something or something super cheap. So what we're saying was the reason why they raided those specific places is because there was like one of the remaining places they didn't have under their control, so they can tear it down and revamp it, or at least they're trying to tie it to gentrification, but like that. And this is it's like gentrification, okay, cool, but there's many studies, especially in the last 3, 4, 5 years, proving that it's actually beneficial to everybody and not hurt no one. And the people that end up moving out of cities move anyway. It had nothing to do with gentrification, just that poor people tend to migrate. That's just across the board, whether they're in rich and poor cities, just tend to move around. They said that's one of the connections, and said because of that, that's why they end up targeting that place. I'm like, so it had nothing to do with them actually, doing crime, criminal activity, nothing. That it just had to do with the gentrification, right? I said, okay, all right. But I just want to put that out there.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I appreciate that, because there's so much to this story. And that's the thing, is that, you have the right and the left arguing on all this. And it's like, what's funny is that, Rand Paul came out with the Breonna Taylor, bill that he helped author, that he wrote to oppose no-knock warrants. And like you and I just talked about, the no-knock wasn't even executed because they actually did knock and announce who they were. And then after Trump's RNC speech, they come after him and they're like, say her name. And he's actually pushing legislation that in a normal world they would actually be supportive of, but because this world is just freaking bizarre and crazy. Now, I want to talk about, so as we were talking about earlier last night, sadly, so you said 3 police officers were shot. Is that correct? Because I know that there were 2 in one specific area here. So we'll get into the third one here if you could give me more information about that, because I hadn't seen that update. But a little bit update, guys, on the when the first story broke out yesterday about the 2 police officers who were shot. So thankfully, both of them are going to be okay. This here from NBC News. One of the 2 Louisville police officers shot during the protests over the grand jury decision, the Breonna Taylor case, suffered a wound to the abdomen and remains hospitalized, said the authorities on Thursday. Officer Robin DeRoches, who had been on the job for a year and a half, is in stable condition, thank God, said Robert Schroeder, the interim chief of the Louisville Metro Police Department. The other official wounded in the shooting, Major Aubrey Gregory, commander of the department's Special Operatives Division, who has been leading police response to the protest, was shot in the hip and has been released from the hospital. So Schroeder said, Gregory has been with the department for 21 and a half years. Schroeder told reporters, we are extremely fortunate that these 2 officers, will recover. So thank God for that. Topher, the rhetoric that comes from the left, they don't believe that it has any consequences when they go on this anti-cop rhetoric. But clearly, we have seen a concerted effort against our brave law enforcement when these things happen, and then fueled, the flames are stoked when you have people like LeBron James, who is one of the most influential social media people or figures in the world. And he's going around saying, a couple weeks ago, and then I'll let you elaborate here. He said, we as black men, and like, we don't know if a cop is going to wake up on the wrong side of the bed one day and say it's going to be the end for one of these black people today. Mm-hmm. So LeBron James says that. And what do you think goes through the minds of like a young black man who maybe might look up to LeBron James? How do you think they're going to react to a police officer the next time that they're stopped? And so I just kind of want your thoughts on all this here.
Yeah. So I always tell people, with much power comes much responsibility. So if you have such a great platform, you have that type of influence, you should be very careful at what you say. Not because, it's just some more right to do so. It's just that your words have an effect on people, on businesses, on just whole perspectives. And this is my thing. It's like everyone is like defund the police, yada, yada, yada. Don't live in the places where they need police. Like no celebrity, LeBron James, nobody. LeBron James would dare not go stay in a house in Chicago, Southside Chicago. He's not finna plant like a beautiful home right there with his car parked outside. He's not gonna do that.
Yep.
And if they do it, and they're not gonna do it, and if they do it, they're gonna realize that this is stupid. They need more police. So they're not gonna do that. They're sitting comfortable in their homes, talking about hey man, we need to defund the police, abolish police because they're hunting us down. It's like, bro, just like that woman said earlier, I think her name was Kimberly, how all skin folk, or I'm black and they don't speak for all of us. This is true. LeBron James don't speak for us black folks either. Like, I'm not getting hunted down. So many black people tell you, yes, we have been pulled over. Yes, cops have came and questioned us. Did we survive? Yes. Did we do what we're supposed to do? Yes. Most of the time, you can literally look at, especially with the black lady, I posted a video the other day of the video that went viral because, the officers were arresting her, but found out that she was acting a fool for 15 minutes. And the car that, was supposedly stolen was actually involved in a drive-by shooting, but she was causing a distraction for the boyfriend that was in the car to escape because he was the one who was actually wanted for that shooting, in connection to that shooting. But we had these videos that go out and people paint this whole narrative that's just false. It just shows us as victims. For some reason, the black community, and I mean like as in like mainstream media, wants to be reflected as victims. Like it pays. It's someone, and why I say it pays, Black Lives Matter has raised over millions and millions and millions of dollars off of our suffering. There's no other race doing this. No one else is raising money like this off their suffering. So it's like, why do we continue to fall for this? It's like, look, I want to help you guys. I understand it's a tragedy. I understand there's feelings involved, all right? But we're going to continue to see this cycle if we don't get to the truth. And the truth of the matter is, if we don't teach people how to behave, how to be respectful, how to avoid being in criminal situations to even be in these situations, then we're never going to get anywhere. It doesn't matter how great you make the officers if our culture doesn't change. If it doesn't change. And anybody want to talk about what's wrong with black culture? Like, dude, we're the only one that got a shade room. Like, name any other race that has a shade room and a world star hip hop. No one does. We sit here and literally throw shade. This whole point of shade room on each other. We don't need anybody else holding us down. We hold ourselves down. And this is what we do on a daily basis. So when I tell people, it's like, no, I'm not worrying about the officers. I'm not worried about these cops, man. I'm more worried about you, a black person, a black man, shooting me down because you don't agree with what I say and we have different political ideologies.
Yeah. I mean, and what do they think is going to be accomplished by abolishing the police? I mean, that's what Colin Kaepernick, again, like you said, someone who has a huge platform should be very careful with their words. But he's saying abolish the police. A lot of people say, oh, we're saying defund the police, but that just means take some funds from over here and put it over here. But no. You have Colin Kaepernick, basically the leader of this whole SJW movement, saying abolish the police. What do they possibly think is going to happen when they if they were to abolish the police?
I don't know. Just ask Minneapolis how they look right now. Crime is already spiking up after they done their thing. Same thing with New York. I mean, New York is starting to see some of that bleed over when you're just releasing criminals after they commit a crime because you don't think they should serve so much time or whatever. It's like criminals are criminals. It's not a disease. You know what I'm saying? It's not something that you just wake up and catch. It's a mind state. And if you don't do nothing to change it, just releasing them back into the wild, ain't nothing going to change. So,
exactly. I never understood that. Like when these people, they release them from jail and they go right back out and commit crimes. It's like, what did you think was going to happen? It's like the old football coach, Dennis Green. They are who we thought they were. It's like, what did you think was going to happen? Do you realize why they were in jail in the first place? You know, on that note of the hysteria and the victimization, I could not believe the tweet. Could not believe the tweet here, and I sent this to you, man. I cannot believe what was said today. And again, it's this hysterical reaction to all of this.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man, there's a lot to get into with this tweet. ESPN reporter Mark Jones today, he is a black man. He says this on Twitter after the Breonna Taylor ruling. Saturday at my football game, I'll tell the police officer on duty to protect me, he can just take the day off. For real. I'd rather not have the officer shoot me because he feared for his life because of my black skin or some other dumb SHIT. I'm not signing my own death certificate. What's your reaction? I don't know what to say. What's your reaction, Topher?
Well, it will have to be with the next photo. You got to drop the next one for
all right. So on that reaction, as you guys know, Twitter, we go way back, and somebody found this tweet from 2018 where he's standing with two white police officers, and he says, "Shout out to the Syracuse Police Department who helped me secure the case today." The bag. I appreciate y'all. Keep up the work. Real professionals.
Yay! Real professionals. Yeah. So this is my thing, man. And like you just said earlier, it's like all these people have private security. So I don't understand how they even mouth that they can't stand police officers and they fear for their life. Like most of the time, celebrities like LeBron James have like 24/7 almost security, especially when they're traveling, things like that. It's like if none of y'all have been shot yet, then there must be a correlation between what you're doing and and how police respond. So are you out doing drugs? Are you out committing violent crimes? Are you? Because if you are, then you're probably gonna run into the police. And if you run into police committing a violent crime, then you're even more likely to end up in a altercation. So this whole fear thing to me is just, I don't know if it's new, but it's dangerous because once again, let's say we get the police out of anything, it's gonna allow criminals. It's not gonna empower us as individuals, especially when we have them also pushing us to take away guns. It does not empower us as Americans or individuals to defend ourselves when we don't have police officers. All it does is it empowers the criminals. And the criminals now, when they had some deterrent because the police was running around, are going to have even less of a deterrent because they're patrolling less. If you look at any of these neighborhoods that have high crime rates, especially violent crime, you're going to realize that they don't have enough police officers. It has nothing to do with police and their the way they patrol and stuff like that. It's that they don't have enough resources. They can't respond to crimes. That's why places in Chicago now or Baltimore take about an hour for police to even get out there because they don't have enough police officers. There's so many things going on that they can't respond to everything in the necessary time. And once again, this does nothing but hurt the black community. So all this nonsense about defunding the police makes no sense. And I tell people all the time, when I was growing up in small towns, right, Kilmichael, Mississippi, I remember my mom got into the altercation when I was a kid. It took them an hour to get out there. The police station ain't nothing but like 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes down the road. Took them an hour to respond. I mean, everything's over with. So I know firsthand what it's like to experience a crime happen, call the police, and they just don't show up until an hour later. And that had nothing to do because we were black. It had everything to do because they're short on manpower.
Yes.
So it's like, if we truly want to see justice and we truly want to see some stuff done, you know what I'm saying? Make sure that we're doing it the right way. And what's going to get us, like I said, what's going to make sure officers are held accountable for their actions is to make sure that when we do think they broke the law, that they actually broke the law. Just because we
Yes.
think, you know what I'm saying, doesn't mean it's true. It's like, and we can't just press charges and be mad when they don't stick. It's like, that's dumb. Like, why would you do that? It's
Of
like, it's
course.
almost like a female accusing a man of rape, even though they never has, sex or anything, and then she get mad when he get off. It's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't be
Yeah.
mad at that, But yeah.
I just don't understand. Like the left could win over a lot of the middle if they just presented their arguments in a very middle of the road way. Because we got to be honest here, they go from a tragedy happens here with Breonna Taylor to abolish all police, when that is going to do nothing but hurt black people. There was a poll
Yeah.
done a little over a month ago that said, 85% of black people who were polled did not want less police in their communities. They wanted more police in their communities. And so it's like, why do they jump to these solutions? And then what they do, what all of this does, what this rhetoric does, and I'll put the tweet back up here for you guys. So again, ESPN reporter Mark Jones says, I'm going to basically tell my police officer on Saturday, if he wants to protect me, leave me the hell alone, because I don't want him to shoot me because of the color of my skin. Are you kidding me? Are you freaking kidding me? So basically you're making the police the problem and not each individual situation the problem. They have taken facts completely out of this, and this just goes to show that it's nothing but a narrative. That's all it is that they are truly using this to push a narrative. When you so blatantly ignore the facts of a case,
Yeah.
then you're only doing this to stoke the flames of racial fire in the country, and it does nothing for the country. If anything, it causes more unrest. I don't understand.
I was gonna say, man, this is the cycle, man. They gotta keep the cycle, because America was coming to a great place. You know what I'm saying? Medium household for the black people was going up under President Trump. Lowest unemployment rate under President Trump. So many great things were happening, and people was coming out of poverty. We had over 5 million people off of food stamps. So all this was happening, and when you get out of those positions, you get less reliant on the government, right? And therefore, when you do get out of these positions, you have a change of mind state and perception, because you're no longer clouded by the poverty. And when you get on top, you realize, wait a minute, why am I paying so many taxes? Wait a minute, what? Maybe it wasn't because I was black. Maybe it because, I can see people now. What happened was the left saw this, and they had to dig something up to get us back to where we were, so they can create more victims. And this is what it is. All they're trying to do is create more victims so they can keep their jobs alive. Because once again, if you realize that there's nothing no one can tell you, you're no longer a victim, and you can do everything by yourself if you want to, which is the freedom of America, which is why I love America. Then you realize, I don't need a Democrat. I don't need this candidate. I don't need LeBron James telling me to do this.
Yes.
They need this so they can keep their jobs and keep the money flowing to them.
And they stay in the good boys club, to be honest here, because because that was going to be my next question, is that what is the incentive for these high level influencers, LeBron James, to keep this mental jail, this mental prison around black youth, around black men, about black people in general? What's in it for them? You have Shannon Sharp, of all people, like Drew Brees, God forbid, comes out and says, I'm not going to agree with anyone who disrespects the national anthem, and he had to apologize like nothing else. Deshaun Jackson comes out and shares a quote that he believed was attributed to Hitler, saying the worst possible things you can about Jews. Shannon Sharp comes out and says, black people are always forced to disavow things. White people never have to disavow anything. What planet is he living on, first of all? Second of all, what's in it for them? What's in it for these celebrities and these people of influence to keep the black community down? And I guess you just touched on it right there. It's that, well, they lose their influence and their power so there's this quote, and I don't have it up here, but it's basically talking about, people will do anything for people who confirm their fear. Or, I don't want to butcher the quote. I'm going to bring it up here, but I wanted your reaction of I guess you already touched on it, but what's in it for these influencers to keep the black community down, I guess?
Well, you always need it's a class war, right? And I don't think it had to do with color. I just think the black people are the easiest to fool at this moment. I'll tell people right now, our emotional IQ is very low. Out of all the races in America right now, we're just the most timid, we're the most volatile, So it's easier to manipulate us. And so it's not because we're black, it's just the fact that we just, it's easier to manipulate us. Now, what's in it for them? Think about this, man. You realize quickly that you don't need to pay $180 for some LeBron James shoes
That's true.
when you get out of poverty and realize, oh man, this is not a good item to buy. When you get some knowledge about yourself, you realize, oh, this is dumb. Why am I paying so much for this jersey? Why am I doing this and doing that? Why am I buying out? See, all this ties into that. So the smarter you get, the less likely you are to buy those type of things. So there's less profit on their end. So so why would they get rid of their base, right? So why would they get rid of their base? And that's gonna hurt their pockets. And I say that because they're making so many millions of dollars. They truly cared about black people and things like that. They would really be out here trying to educate us. And I have not seen LeBron James come out and say one thing, just one tweet. He has not said one tweet. Guys, we got to be smarter. We got to make better choices. You know what I'm saying? Yes. Was it a tragedy? Absolutely. But this could have been avoided if you don't do bad, illegal activity. But he has not said one tweet like that. So this is how I know it's a narrative. And this is how I know he truly doesn't want to help the community. He just wants to pretend to help the community based on that emotion so he can continue to thrive in his mansion, live where he lived, look like the good guy so he can continue to buy his stuff, even though he talks about slavery but still works with Nike, who uses slave labor to get everything done. So everything about him is a big ball of hypocrisy, but no one
exactly cares. Yeah. And not only that, but he just kowtows to China all day, and he will not speak out against the human rights violations made against Chinese people from the police. The quote that I read is from Blair Warren that I didn't want to butcher, and thank God I didn't try because I would have butchered it bad. It says this, and think about this as we're thinking about these influencers in general. People will do anything, and people here would be the people who are being influenced by these by LeBron James, the Shannon Sharps of the world. People will do anything for those who encourage their dreams, justify their failures, allay their fears, confirm their suspicions, and help them throw rocks at their enemies. So think about it. Like, there's nothing in it to empower the black youth for them because, hey, if they can just continue to be reliant on me, that, like, think about it. I mean, I will say, I don't know what your thoughts are, but I mean, like Kevin Hart, for instance, he actually goes into communities, teaches them about credit, about money, about saving, about finance. Now, he's not a conservative by any stretch of the imagination, but he's also not someone who goes out there and openly trashes Trump. He cares about the black community. But I mean, I haven't kept up too much with this whole political thing, but he actually is partnered with JP Morgan Chase, and he said, I've heard him on Joe Rogan's podcast. He's like, I want to get into the black. He's like, a lot of these young black people, they don't know what the stock market is. They don't know how that you can put $1 into Apple and watch it grow. You don't know that they can save their money, that they don't got to go out and, as you said, buy those $180 sneakers because that's not going to further your dreams, that they can do their own education online and learn a skill online and do things. And so that's what I like that Kevin Hart's doing. Not saying he's maybe perfect and whatever, but it's just, if LeBron James had that same message to the black community, like, how much more could be done? But instead, it's pushing it down. It's pushing the community down.
Well, this is my thing. Even if it was a true narrative, right? Let's say if it was a true issue, I would love to tackle it with them. I'll be on the front lines with them, talking about, hey, man, police are hunting us down. The problem is, once again, objectively speaking, based on empirical data, based on everything else that's going on, based on just anecdotal evidence from black people themselves, is like, this is not happening. Yes. So why are we talking about something that's not happening? Can we talk about things that are happening? Like, fathers and mothers having kids outside of wedlock and not wanting to work it out. Can we talk about those things? Can we talk about how a lot of us are not finishing high school because we want to be cool and do other things? Can we talk about those things? These are things that's within our control. Like, those are the things that's really affecting us on an everyday basis. This whole cop thing, it does not. Cops have over 5 million, I believe, encounters every year. And then we only have, even out of the violent crime ones they respond to, we only have about 1,000 that end up dead. So it's like, out of 5 million encounters, 1,000 dead, and you want to get rid of all the cops. So, bro, 99.99%, they're good. There's no deaths. Everything's done right. Everything's cool. But now we want to kind of focus on that small percentage and try to make them out to be evil. It's like, look, guys, bad people do exist. We're not denying that. But keep that to the bad person. And I'll tell anybody, like, I'm all about, just like when they say, and once again, like, just to piggyback off what Colin Kaepernick said, the white supremacist institution.
Oh my God.
What specific institution are you talking about? The entire justice system? Oh, you're talking about the entire justice system that just paid $12 million to Breonna Taylor's family, the biggest settlement ever in Louisville, Kentucky. Even though we know for sure the cops, obviously after the evidence and the indictment came out, they was not responsible for her death. We want to talk about that system. Like, well, I don't see a system that's systemically racist paying this type of money to black people. It's like
exactly.
We gotta stop the lies, man.
And then the shooting in Baltimore, I believe it was 2015. Talking about this whole white supremacist as well. At that time we had a black president, the black attorney general of that area, like a black. I mean, I just don't understand this, and so the hypocrisy is just absolutely absurd. And I just don't know. I just wrote this down as we were talking. Mm-hmm. So it's like this whole anti-cop sentiment. It's like if a child, and when we talk about these influencers, right, and they talk about cops this way, when a child is brought up in this way, when people are brought up in a community where you are constantly told, hey, because of the color of your skin, cops don't like you. How do we expect them to respond when a cop pulls them over? Of course they're going to resist arrest, because the people that they grew up around, that they trust to give them advice, to mold them into a human being, to mold them into an adult, are telling them, look, these people are bad and they're out to get you. And guess what? You look different. So you might get shot because of the color of your skin. I think any child growing up in that environment would be looking over their shoulders if a cop comes up to them. But it's like, so what is your take on that? And what can possibly be done? I guess, I don't want to complain so much about LeBron James. Like, what can we do? All the several thousand people that are still on here, what can be done then, I guess, on our end to just to fight back against this narrative that you're not, that there is no major genocide. I mean, George Floyd's lawyer came out in June and said that there is a genocide against black people by the cops right now. What can we do to fight back against this? What can we do to fight back against this narrative when the facts are still on our side, yet they run with this stuff?
Well, I mean, it's almost reminding me of the time when Jesus was around the Israelites and they still doubted him, even though he was performing miracles. It's like, it's like right there in your face. I don't know what more do you need? Some people just refuse to believe the truth regardless. And they're just evil in their heart, and it's something they got to deal with, man. You know what I'm saying? Because we got to stop thinking like these people are just fooled. They're not fooled, Clayton. I'm gonna put this out here. They're not fooled. They're just refusing the truth. They're refusing the facts. They're not fooled at all. They don't have no wool put over their eyes. They have a plan. They have an agenda, which I call Marxist and communist, that they have to push it in order to get what they want to achieve. Now, what we can do is continue to push the truth, right? Yeah. So us having a conversation here with our family members, when we see people that post really great videos and breakdowns, share that with your family, share that with your kids, share that with your friends, so we can get the truth out there, right? So I always tell people, man, look, if don't focus on converting anyone. Even in Christianity, it's never your job to focus on converting anybody. You're just a messenger. Your job is to get the message out. So what we got to do is continue to get the message out there. When we have to support people, support the truth. If the officer is in the wrong, we as conservatives or whoever you are on here listening, make sure that you speak up about it. Like, don't go silent because you don't want to make the police look bad. Speak up. Say, hey, I think that's bad. You know what I'm saying? Maybe they shouldn't have done it that way. So I feel like a lot of times we don't speak up or at least criticize police enough. Not saying they deserve it, but I do see sometimes we reserve our opinion. We would have voiced it if the roles were reversed. So I think we need to make sure that we do both, and we need to try to keep a fair mind, try to keep an open mind, and man. So and start teaching the youth and stop about what they can do and what's in their control versus what they can't control, because they can't control how I'm put like this. No one can control how another person behaves. Right? Yeah. If we try to do that, then you're just gonna be fighting this endless war. Trust me, all the husbands in the world would have been used these methods if it was possible, if they can control how their wife acts. So we can't really control how anyone else acts. So all you can, so instead of focusing on fearing themselves and all this stuff, teach them what they can control. So, hey, you might not can control if the officer is hunting us down. You can't control that, but what you can control is how you look during that encounter. Do you look like a compliant person? Do you look like a person that was innocent? Do you look like a person that was just in the wrong place at the wrong time? Like those
Yes.
elements is what we need to be teaching our youth, and that's why I tell people all the time when I'm talking to the young folks, like, look, you know what I'm saying? You can do whatever you want to do. Let's focus on that. Like, what decision are you making today? Because we can, I don't know if you saw the video I posted about the get your booty to the pole. I don't know if you saw that video I posted on my
I don't
Instagram.
think so. No.
So it was this Atlanta-based producer that shot this commercial ad for black men. Like they said specifically on their website, is getyourBootyToThePole.com.
Oh no.
They shot this ad specifically for black men, and it's nothing but strippers talking about going to the poll, like going to the election poll, and they're shaking their butts and everything. And I'm just looking like, man, is this what y'all think of black men? Like, we won't listen to you unless you're shaking your butt in front of us. Like,
Oh my God.
you can't appeal to us on the intellectual level without first sexually arousing us. Like, this is horrible. So if you got your own people that are doing these type of things, imagine just how much more someone that's not involved in your community think of you. So this is why I tell people, it's like, if we're gonna fuss about anything, we need to fuss about how we portray ourselves and how we treat
Yes. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I agree.
if you see a black woman being beat up or something, don't go videotape it. Stop the fight. No matter if
Yeah.
it's girl on girl, man on man, whatever. Stop the fight. Get them to calm down, hash it out, and try to find a solution. Stop sitting here and perpetuating and pushing this thing that's happening. We don't need more violence. We don't need any more headaches. We need solutions, and we need leaders out here to teach
Yes.
these people. But the problem is, being a leader is uncomfortable and it's not cool. So therefore, people don't want to be a leader. People don't want to go out there and make people angry at you. Everyone's talking about get your booty to and wop to the polls. All not wop. But yeah. So just to put that out there, that's what I think we should do, Clayton. Anybody that's listening, like I said, control what we can and just focus on that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I love it. So on that note, so I guess the last thing I want to talk about here is the 2020 election real quick. You know, what do you think then is going to happen? Because there's, you know, the left is trying to position themselves as being the ones who are the ones that are standing for the black community, and they're the ones that are doing all the things. But is the black community? I mean, I don't want to just put the whole black community in a bubble, but it's just like all the black conservatives that you talk to, and you always tell me that you get dozens and dozens and dozens of messages saying, I support Trump. I love what you're talking about, but I can't become public about it. Do you think this silent swell of black voters is going to come out to the polls on November 3rd and give Trump a huge victory?
Absolutely. And Clayton, speaking of, you know, unsilent majority, we're going to be doing the march next Friday in DC.
Yep.
It's going to be really huge. We got a lot of great speakers I'm looking forward to, like Joy Villa, Vernon Jones, DC Drano, Scott Pressler, all kinds of people that's going to be there speaking. But yeah, you're absolutely right. This is the same thing that happened in 2016 is going to happen 2020, but even worse, because Joe Biden is the absolute worst candidate they could have ever picked out of all the people they had up there.
They
right?
paired him up with Kamala Harris. you know Dave Rubin, right?
Yeah.
So he took a month off of politics. He was able to unplug his phone, and the entire month of August he was gone. So Michael Knowles from the Daily Wire, they did a whole 2-hour segment of catching Dave Rubin up on life, and he told them, he's like, would you have any guesses at who is the vice president candidate? And when he told them, he goes Kamala Harris. He goes, oh, she's the worst. Oh, she's the worst human being in the world. Like, how could they choose her? And so, sorry for interrupting you there, but just the tandem is just a very scary concept.
I mean, take Sean King's words for it, right? The leader of the Black Lives Matter, him himself said that Kamala Harris and Biden were the worst for the black community ever.
Yeah.
Never, ever, ever. Then all of a sudden, when they become the nominees or the people that's up there, all of a sudden it's like, yay, vote for Kamala Harris and Biden. It's like, no, nothing changed about those two at all. If anything, more things became clear that Biden is just completely incoherent and he cannot run as a presidential candidate. He cannot be in Oval Office. It would be horrible.
Yep.
And I was mentioning earlier. Remember, I told you they fact checked my post about his botched Pledge of
Oh,
Allegiance. Even
yeah.
though he clearly botches it, they didn't even talk about the video was edited. They just said it was false because he wasn't attempting. He wasn't attempting to recite the pledge verbatim. It's
The
like, wait, what?
the cover that they run for this guy, I will never get enough of. I went on a rant here. So normally the way live streams go is naturally we all have different things to do. Kids run in, so people jump off the live streams, whatever it is. I can maybe get boring on a topic. So naturally, in the course of a live stream, it'll always be the highest numbers and then it'll go down. I was ranting about Facebook's fact checking when they fact checked us on a 19-year-old story of President Trump sending aid in after 9/11, and the numbers kept going up as I kept screaming more. I was like, man, if I just to get you guys to pay attention, I just need to raise my voice all the time and rant about Facebook fact checkers. It's just ridiculous. The double standard. I mean, for anyone to deny that there was a double standard against conservatives in the media, to where you can have anonymous sources saying that President Trump called fallen soldiers losers and suckers, and it gets printed as if it's the truth. But you have, like you say that he botched the Pledge of Allegiance, which he did, and they're like, well, in this instance, he wasn't trying to attempt to recite it hand over his heart, so we can't hold them verbatim. Drives me crazy. Drives me crazy,
man. And like you said, man, it's getting so bad that I was talking to my boy Craig Long on Instagram, TikTok, a really, really great Trumpster. But he was saying that he was on his TikTok live and they're bad too. TikTok banned his live because he said that shortly after he said he don't care or don't agree with Black Lives Matter, they said his live was banned. They are going so far to keep the narrative up that they are banning people if you are talking about controversial content. And of course, controversial content is very subjective.
Yep.
They never tell you specifically what you said. They just say controversial content.
And the worst thing in the world is that the way the left has branded the words Black Lives Matter is that they can use it however they want to use it. So when we take their name literally, Black Lives Matter, and we talk about the black communities, black on black crime, they say, whoa, we're just talking about police brutality right now and injustice. And then we say, okay, fine. And then we, God forbid, criticize the organization, or something happens and they go, whoa, I guess you don't care about black lives. I stand with Black Lives Matter. That means that I believe. So when they want to use it against us, they use it in a broad fashion. When we want to use it against them, they go narrow. It is one of the most infuriating things I've ever had on political discourse online. And it pisses me off to no end. I got to be honest here, because now, thankfully, people are waking up, but sadly, there's only 39 days left to the election, basically less than 40 days. And we got to keep convincing as many people as we can, because Black Lives Matter uses it as a statement. It's an organization. And then you have some people in Black Lives Matter saying, well, no. We're also for all of these rights. We're for trans, LGBT, climate change, because they affect black lives. But then you have another fragment of Black Lives Matter who said that they're only focused on police brutality and inequality. That's why I don't talk Black Lives Matter as much on my TikToks, Instagrams, because what's the point in arguing with these people when they can't even come together to decide what their movement is even about?
Yeah, that's why I say I don't get down with the movement. I know a lot of people's like, well, I understand the sentiment, but I just can't get down with the movement at all.
Of course, absolutely. When I interviewed the Hodge twins, like they said, of course, everyone believes agrees with the statement Black Lives Matter. Nobody, unless you're a super racist person that you find down the thread in a Twitter thread or something.
Yeah.
But nobody's disagreeing with you that Black Lives Matter. And, you had that Jonathan Isaac, the Orlando Magic basketball player a couple months ago. Mm-hmm. God forbid this guy stood for the national anthem and didn't wear a Black Lives Matter t-shirt. And this is why I say that the Black Lives Matter movement is not cohesive, because you had a verified liberal on Twitter who has the privilege of actually asking questions to professional basketball players. And what does she ask? Excuse me, sir, I noticed that you weren't wearing a Black Lives Matter t-shirt. Do you believe that Black Lives Matter? So this is an example of a mainstream liberal, not some random Twitter troll, associating the Black Lives Matter movement broadly. Meanwhile, people on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube saying, whoa, bro, we're just talking about police brutality right now. But even this mainstream person is taking it broadly. So the movement isn't as cohesive as some people think.
Yeah. I was telling people this too, man. Even with the kneeling thing, it's like, why do you continue to do something that's so controversial? Like, obviously, you're not getting your point across because people, no matter how many times you tell the story, you're not getting your point across. Why not move to another thing? This is my thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I knew that, maybe, if I was wearing a Santa hat and people, because I always wear the Santa hat and people
Yeah,
really just,
yeah,
I don't really like it, and they didn't understand why I was wearing the Santa hat, and it kind of took away from the main purpose of me wearing the Santa hat. Then
yeah,
yeah, I'll probably stop wearing the Santa hat. Be like, okay, cool. Let me try a different approach because obviously, no matter how much I try to explain this, it does not get across to people, right?
yep.
But here we are. People are still kneeling for the anthem, still kneeling for the flag, and people just like, well, we done told you what it's about. It's like, dude, go do something else. Can you do something that's not related to disrespecting someone? Like, I don't know, go to the police department, do something else.
Exactly.
Just find something else that people can be like, oh, I see clearly without having this veil of my opinion on top of it. And we can get to the solution. I can hear your cry, but they don't want to do that. They want to keep pissing us off because it's not just, that's the thing. It's not just
Yep.
about getting a message across. It's
Of course.
about really disrespecting and overturning the entire Constitution. Matter of fact,
Yeah.
I tell you right now, Clayton, hopefully people come back and watch this interview. They don't care until they get rid of the U.S. Constitution. For them, the entire system of America is
Yes.
systemically racist. It's one huge white supremacist institution, and until they overturn it all, they would not be satisfied.
Yes. Yep. I agree.
So,
I mean, I think that's perfectly said there. And I was gonna say something. I was gonna add on to that something that you were saying. But I it escaped my mind. But this whole thing, is just absolutely ridiculous. But I mean, you put a bow on it right there. You had mentioned the unsilent walkaway march that you and I are both going to be at. We are both going to be there. I'm going to share this here. If anyone is on the East Coast, if anyone wants to join us, we're going to be there live at the walkaway. Now, we're not speaking or anything like that, but we will be there and you guys can see us there. Now, a lot of people have concerns about security, so I want to talk about that here for a second. They have done an amazing job of prioritizing security. Go look up Brandon Straka, Straka on Twitter. He did a whole live stream about the security that's going to be there. They have several hundred former military, Green Berets, former cops, Bikers for Trump, and they have hired a ton of private security to help that event run smoothly. Now is not a time to be afraid. If you are on the East Coast, even if you're not on the East Coast, come out there and join us. The march itself, the actual march itself is Saturday, October 3rd, but there is an event going on Friday night, October 2nd. Diamond and Silk are going to be speaking. Laura Trump is going to be speaking. There's going to be a lot of great speakers on Friday night, and then there's going to be speakers on Saturday, which is that information that you guys have right here. So the march is October 3rd, Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern at Lafayette Square Park, and then there's going to be a rally at 12:30. So if anyone is out there, Topher and I are going to be there. It's going to be a blast. Walk Away is celebrating everyone who has walked away from the Democrat Party, who have stepped off of that, just that mindset that the left has pushed. And I think it's going to be huge. If anyone is in the area, please feel free to go out there. They have done a great job. It's in Washington, D.C., Gina. I see you're wearing Washington, D.C., it is going to go down. It is going to be a lot of fun, you guys. So, hey, Topher, man, I appreciate you coming on, man. We have talked about a lot of good topics. I'm going to cut this interview up. We're going to find some good clips here. We'll put them on Instagram, on Facebook, and all over, man. Do you have any final words you want to say to the audience here before you take off?
Yeah, just just because Black people are out stupid and ignorant of the law and of the facts goes all into the same category. There are a big sect of Black people. We're just silenced. They don't want to push. I was talking to ESPN, like they don't want to talk about who doesn't same sentiment as us, because he knows that he's going to stand for the flag. He understands everything because based on how his parents came, and he understands how great America is. But they're not going to bring him up and ask him
Yes.
because ESPN themselves have a narrative they have to push. That's why
Yes.
you come on, man. Out of all those thousands of football players, everyone's on the same page about this. No, it's not. It's not true. So I want you to know there are people like me out there. You go look for them. ABL officer, go down the list. The Money Fellas, the Bryce and Gray, all of them have a lot of great information. And I'm not forgetting my females, and you know what I'm saying, you know, Candace Owens and everybody. Just put it out there. It's like, he's just sexist. I'm not. These are the guys. These are the homies.
Of course.
You don't hold us to the same standard. Don't throw us in the same category. And just give okay. Once again, if anything, I tell people be slow to judge and quick to understand and listen. So just slowly and give us a little time to kind of work things out. This is not just an external thing, but it's also an internal war. So we got to make sure we get everything aligned. So thank y'all for always giving your ears to me and being a great audience and being attentive and listening to what I have to say. But I'm out here fighting the same fight you guys, and that's the truth. And also for the Constitution. So there's, like I said, the Constitution is colorblind. It has been fixed to be colorblind. And matter of fact, you know, if anybody has any issues, they can always come DM me, talk to me, invite me to your show. Let's get the truth out there. Don't be afraid to have the conversation.
Yep, everybody, go follow him, Topher Town Music, on all social media, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Twitch. He has amazing social media presence. I didn't realize this till just now, but you're like flirting with 100,000 followers on Instagram. You're like the 85,000 mark, man. I didn't realize that until this morning, man. You're almost there, man. It's gonna be awesome. That's awesome.
It's gonna be great, man. And also, just for people out here, real quick, News Clapper is another alternative to TikTok. So, if you like TikTok and you still like your creators, go to News Clapper. It has a little bit less, and working on it, still in development, still new. So everything's not quite like, but it's really great. Has great potential. To the developers personally, so those favorite effects that we need to make sure that us influencers like me and everybody else on TikTok, and also I know they're not still waiting for that verification. So is Hodge Twins and Officer Tatum. It means that you don't verify somebody who's literally verified on. Come on, man. You got to verify.
Exactly. No, that leaves out the hope. That leaves out a lot of hope there. You know what? I remember when you mentioned the flag. I finally remember what I was going to say earlier, and then we can take off about the national anthem thing. Is that they say, "Oh, well, we're kneeling for the flag. That's a sign of respect and reverence." But in week 1 of the NFL season, when they played the Black national anthem, nobody kneeled during the Black national anthem. They only stood for the Black national anthem. So wait a minute. If you're trying to tell us that kneeling is a form of respect and reverence, why didn't you do it for the Black national anthem that played before the national anthem? You had some teams that stood for the Black national anthem and then knelt for the national anthem, the Star Spangled Banner. So this whole argument of, oh, no, it's a sign of respect to kneel. That is completely out of completely out of the argument now. It's ridiculous. So
yeah, it doesn't. And like you say, you know, what they're trying to say is it's a disrespectful. It's respectfully being disrespectful. But even then, it's like it's dumb. Like you can't be respectfully disrespectful. I don't care what nobody say. You're disrespecting me at the end of the day, and that's what people are talking about.
And even the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg said it was dumb of Colin Kaepernick to be kneeling during the flag. And I will leave it off with that. So next week, Topher, man, I will be meeting you in person for the first time. It's going to be a lot of fun out there in DC. If anyone is out in that area, please join us at the Walkaway March next week. Next Saturday is the march. Topher and I are getting there a little bit later in the week. So be there. We will see you guys there. You guys all have an amazing rest of your day, everybody. And we will be talking to you. I will be back tomorrow at 12 p.m. Pacific, everyone, and I will see you guys then.
Peace out, yeah.